Hello, friends. Welcome to my channel That One Story. Let's begin. Enjoy watching. I didn't leave you, but it's a long talk. You'll probably be ashamed of me now. I'm the last tramp. A bum no one needs, so I'd better go, I guess. Just tell me what kind of pills to buy, because I'm really sick. I'm coughing. I can't breathe, and a fever all the time. The woman once again hugged the old man tightly. What are you talking about? I'm happy I met you, and now I won't let you go anywhere. You know that. You're the closest thing I have ever had to child. At that moment a nurse entered the office and was dumbfounded when she saw the doctor happily embracing the homeless man. She coughed and asked, "Elena Vladimirovna, I'm sorry, but the patients are about to tear the door down. We'd better get on with their appointments, otherwise they'll start complaining. And we don't want any problems. You know these activist pensioners." Lena nodded and began to listen to her father with the phone endoscope, and frowned the whole time, then answered, "Zina, meet my dad, Ivan. He disappeared many years ago, and today he's found him. What a joy. Can you imagine? Can I ask you to take him to the ward? He has severe bronchitis, and book him into a private room, with amenities, and here, the appointment. Buy a list and give him injections so far. Be sure to antibiotic and antipyretic, and I'll pick him up after work from there. I'll thank you, and I'll continue the appointment. I'll be there as always and tell the last patient. Don't worry." Zina started to deny it. "Come on, Elena Vladimirovna, stop it. I'll do everything anyway. Just call the head, arrange it. Man, come with me. I'll take you." Zina processed Ivan Demidovich, watched this squalid, unkempt tramp, who smelled bad, and she herself kept thinking what was so joyful about finding the homeless man's father. Well, he disappeared many years ago, did not help anything, and now he was found. And why Elena Vladimirovna this headache? Strange. She is still a little, not of this world, strongly kind. Everyone is sitting on her neck. Lena could barely wait until the end of the day today. It seemed to her that the succession of patients was simply endless. Finally the last patient came out of the office, and the woman breathed a sigh of relief. Now she would call Leshka, tell him the good news, and go straight home to her father to pick him up. She dialed her husband, who was still at work, and she spoke at once. "Leshenka, I have something important to tell you. Remember I told you many times about my stepfather, who was like a father to me, and disappeared years ago? Well, you won't believe it, but he came to see me today. I didn't recognize him at all. He was down and vagabonding. Something terrible has happened to him. You see, I can't leave him. No way. He's done so much good for me, and he left me and my mother all the money, and we lived on it for a long time. Do you mind if he stays with us for a while? And then I'll think of something." "You're not going to fight?" The husband calmly, as if nothing had happened, replied. "Lena, what kind of silly assumptions are you making? Why should I fight? Your family is my family too." "What are you talking about? Of course. Let him live as long as he needs. We'll help him in any way we can. Then I'll go home quickly. I'll try to cook dinner in time for your arrival, because it's embarrassing in front of the guest." Lena smiled and answered affectionately, "Leshka, you're a miracle. I love you and adore you. That's it. I'm going to my father's. I've put him in the ward for now, until tonight." The woman picked up Ivan, and on the way they bought him some medicine, new clothes, and personal hygiene items and drove home. Lesha was already waiting for them. Amazing smells were coming from the kitchen, and my husband in an apron came out to meet them in the hallway. The old man was timid and stomped around. He was even ashamed to take off his shoes, because he had no socks under his old shoes. Seeing this, Lesha did not show his face, and he greeted him cheerfully by the hand. "Good evening. I'm Lesha, Lenika's husband, and I understand you're her father. Let's meet." The elderly man replied, "My name is Prokhorov Ivan Demidovich. Lena was like a daughter to me. I loved her so much. I'm sorry if I'm embarrassing you. I know I don't look my best. I don't like it myself." Lena helped her father undress. "Dad, I don't want to hear that. Life happens, all kinds of things. Okay, first thing, let's go to the bathroom. I've prepared everything for you there. You'll see your clothes and your bath towel, then dinner, and then the injections. Don't forget, you have bronchitis and fever. and your daughter is a doctor, so we'll treat ourselves to the best of our ability. That's it. Leshka and I are waiting for you in the kitchen." Ivan didn't leave the bathroom for what seemed like an eternity, and Lena even began to worry. "Lesh, maybe Dad got sick in there or didn't figure out how to use the shower." Her husband hugged her and whispered, "Don't get yourself worked up. If it had gotten bad, he would have called you. I think it's just that the man is enjoying the benefits of civilization for the first time in his long nomadic life." Indeed, when Ivan finally appeared in the kitchen, he was unrecognizable, clean-shaven, combed, with rosy cheeks and normal clothes. He could not be more than 60, a completely different person. Lena even gasped and hugged him again. "Daddy, now I recognize you." The same kind, radiant eyes and smile. The three of them had a family dinner, and Lesha fried potatoes and boiled wieners. Then they drank tea and candy. Ivan ate greedily and with a wolfish appetite. Despite his illness and fever, it was obvious that he had long had to go from bread to water. Then Lena gave him injections, gave him medicine, took his temperature, and led him into the bedroom. Clean bedding was already made there. The woman was eager to know what really happened to her father, but she wasn't going to push him to talk about it. Let him recover first, and then he would tell her himself, if he wanted to. Ivan laid down blissfully on the soft, clean bed, and her daughter hugged him and said, "Relax, Daddy, sleep well, be at home, don't be ashamed of anything. Leshka is a miracle. You will become friends for sure, and for sure Zorik won't let you get bored. By the way, did you notice? He didn't bark at you angrily, as if you were a stranger, but accepted right away. You will walk with him in the park." The man suddenly took Lena by the hand. "Daughter, wait, listen to me, please. I need to tell you everything. Remember, I was away on a business trip, just for a couple of days. So, my director of the firm decided to set me up hard with money and documents. I then signed without looking fake contract, and ended up in gaol. Many times I called your mom and asked her to come to me, or at least hire an normal lawyer, because I left her all my money, but she never came, and they put me in jail for 5 years for fraud. I wrote you letters every month, but I never heard back. I was so hurt and offended that Vera left me at such a difficult moment, because I sincerely loved her, and missed you, my darling, very much. Just unbearably. The days in prison dragged on for a long time. It was hard to survive without the support of people close to me, and when I was released, I rushed to my apartment, where we all lived. You know, in spite of your mother's betrayal, I was ready to forgive her everything, if only we were all together again. I imagined how I would hug you, how happy you would be, and some strangers opened the door for me and told me that they had been renting this apartment for a long time. I almost cried, came out of the door, sat down on the bench, and realized that my life ended there. I didn't know where to go and what to do next. With a criminal record certificate, they couldn't hire me for a decent job and there was nothing to live on. So I had to become a homeless person willy-nilly. Sometimes I picked over rotten vegetables at the market, collected bottles, slept on heating mains and in stairwells. I used to drink a lot. When I washed my eyes with water, I didn't feel so sick. I fell asleep and that was it. But then my health began to take a turn for the worse and I could hardly recover. I lay there for 3 days, vomiting day and night and thinking that I would die like that dog under the fence. But no. I survived, but I quit drinking, and I don't want to. That's the way it is. Lenica, believe it or not, I have no reason to lie to you. How's your mother? Is she all right? I think about her a lot. Lena sighed and answered. Mom died 2 years ago with cancer, so I can't ask her anymore. I believe you, Daddy. I felt that Mom was not telling me something. I cried and asked her to put out an APB looking for you, but she wouldn't do anything. She said he left us and that's it. What can I say now? There's nothing to be done. Forgive her, Papa, for betraying you like that. I don't know why she did what she did. You know you're not alone now. You have a family, me and Lashaw. All right, good night. I'm going to bed, too. Ivan touched his pillow, which smelled of lavender, and immediately fell asleep. For the first time in many years of wandering, he fell asleep so soundly and serenely. In his mind he thanked God for sending him a meeting with his daughter today. He loved this inquisitive and affectionate little girl with pigtails so sincerely, as he had never loved anyone else. From that day on, Ivan stayed at Lena's and Leshal's apartment. He helped them as much as he could while they were at work. He could cook dinner, even make pancakes, or help out in the garage. He and Zorik were inseparable. The dog was happy, because now they were walking and playing with him for a long time, and they fed him all kinds of goodies. Eventually Lena bought her father a small but cozy house not far from them. The old man was very happy with his home, planted flowers and kept a small vegetable garden. He enjoyed it. On weekends, Lena and Leshal went to visit Ivan Demidovich. It became a family tradition. Together they roasted meat or sausages on the barbecue, and drank tea in a cozy arbor, which the old man had built with his own hands. Lena noticed that her father went out quite often, taking sandwiches and vegetables from the garden. He always comes back sad and very thoughtful. The woman could not stand it and asked him about it directly. Ivan lowered his eyes guiltily and began to tell. "You see, my daughter, when I was a vagabond, a little boy came to me. His name is Vitya. He's 8 years old. He's an orphan, from an orphanage. They beat him there, hurt him a lot, so the kid runs away. I fed him as much as I could back then, and now I found out he was caught and sent back to the same orphanage. I know how hard it is for him there. He's malnourished and totally withdrawn. So I go to see him little by little. They always have a walk at lunchtime. I go to the playground. There's a cave there. Vitya is always waiting for me there. I'll stay with him for a while, feed him, talk to him. Maybe I'll make the kid feel better. I feel sorry for him to the point of tears. He's so kind and bright, and his fate is already crippled. I was afraid to tell you about him. It's embarrassing. You and Leshal took me in. You bought me a house, and I am carrying groceries for an orphan. I thought, maybe you will fight." Lena almost cried. She hugged her father and whispered, "Dad, what on earth did you think of that? I'm proud to have such a kind and compassionate father. Not only that, but to be honest, I've been thinking about adopting a child for a long time. Really, I've been dreaming of an infant. But after your story, I want to see Vitya. Can I visit him? Why not take the boy? Since we are not poor, we have our own place. I'm officially married. We both work. I think they ought to go out on a limb for us. I'll talk to my husband, and if he doesn't mind, we'll go to the orphanage." Ivan was very happy and began to thank his daughter. "No, Lenica, I'm proud to have such a wonderful daughter. I think Vitya will be very happy if you tell him I sent you. I'm fond of him. I keep thinking that my life has improved. But why should my child suffer so much? But you and Leshal have to work it out first. Your family." Lena came home, made dinner, and waited for Leshal like she was on pins and needles. She panicked a lot. What will he say? Will he want to adopt the troubled 8-year-old boy? I had just recently brought my father home, and then another son would come along. We've never talked about it. It's scary outright. The husband came in, kissed his wife, and immediately, looking at her, realized that something had happened. He knew Lena better than she knew herself. When she was tormented by something, she would unconsciously twist a lock of hair without noticing it, and bite her lower lip. Leshka held her close to him and said, "So, tell me, what are you thinking about? I can see you want to say something, but you don't dare. Tell me what's on your mind. You know I'll support you in any case." Lena gathered more air into her lungs and began. "There's a thing, Lesh. You see, my father has been feeding a homeless boy, Vitya, for a long time now. The boy is 8 years old. He's an orphan, keeps running away from the orphanage, and they keep bringing him back. He's right there now. It's not far from your work, on Lennon Street, so I thought maybe we should adopt Vitya. Go and see him. You know I can't have children after that tragedy, and I'd love to be a mommy." Leshka thought hard, then said, "I don't mind in principle. Why not give the boy a chance for a normal life? But it's a delicate matter. Do you have any idea what he and I are going through? He's 8 years old, not much, but not little. He's a mature man with his own character and habits. Secondly, if he's used to running away from the orphanage, he might as well keep doing it. Let's do this. The day after tomorrow we'll get off work and go and meet him. We'll talk, and then we'll make a decision." So they did. At first, the manager dissuaded them from meeting Vitya Yarokin in every way possible. "I don't recommend it. The boy comes from a dysfunctional family. His parents are drunks. His character is problematic. He gets into fights, and he runs away all the time. Let me show you more children. We have home babies, whose parents just tragically died in an accident. They are polite and well-mannered, and Vitya's just a tumbleweed. But Lena was adamant there was no way out, so they brought Vitya to the playroom. After the manager's story, Lesha expected to see almost the leader of the gang, but in front of him there was a skinny boy with glasses. He was timidly silent and only looked distrustfully sideways. The child reminded Alexei of himself as a child, a copy of himself, and Lena noticed it at once. Lena began with the main point. "Hello, Vitya. I'm Lena, and this is my husband Lesha. We came to see you because Uncle Vanya, my father, told us about you. He said you were a clever, kind and sympathetic boy, so we'd like to adopt you. In the meantime, we can take you away for the weekend." The boy's face immediately changed and he glowed. Then I'm all for it. I have a lot of respect for Uncle Vanya. He's a good man. He helped me not to die of cold and hunger. He even split a crust of bread in half and protected me from street boys so they wouldn't bully me. Lesha looked at the boy seriously. "But we have one condition. You forget forever about this backyard and homeless life. You won't run away. You won't steal. You'll go to school like everyone else. All right? Uncle Vanya lives near us. You can visit him whenever you want." Vitya held out his skinny little hand and said, "Done. For Uncle Vanya's sake, I'm willing to become a boy. When can we go to him?" "This weekend." "I can't believe it." "Thank you. It's obvious you're good people." Lena replied, "Yes, I think we can do that. I'll make a deal. Tell me honestly, do you like us at all? You know, I don't have kids, and I'd like to call you my son and raise you. How would you feel about that?" Vitya muttered, "I don't like this calf stuff, but I feel so bad myself that I'll do anything to get out of those walls." When Ivan met Vitya at his home on a day off, everyone was crying. The boy climbed into his arms, began to cuddle and hug him. In a disruptive voice he said, "Uncle Vanya, here I am at home. Will you tell me that story about the car race again, and skydiving?" Ivan was all brightened up. He stroked the baby's head and whispered, "How happy I am for you. You can stay overnight at my place if you want. We'll read with you and make dinner, potatoes, military style, just like I taught you. I've got a barbecue too." Lena and Lesha embraced. The man said, "The kid's really good, so we'll do a good deed. And the old man is happy. We'll raise a real man together. We'll educate him. Maybe he'll give us a glass of water in his old age." Life went on. The first 6 months seemed like hell to Lena. She was having a hard time with the educational process. It was not easy to cope with the mischievous Vitya. And if it were not for my father, she certainly could not cope. But with their combined efforts they did make a normal home child out of the wandering Vitya Yursov. Learning was hard only at first. As soon as Vitya began to be praised at school for his achievements, he tried with twice the force. In time, the boy started calling Lena his mom and Lesha his dad. What a pleasure it was. Now Lena couldn't imagine how she and Lesha could ever live together. It was so boring. And now there were so many family members around. And soon something happened that no one expected at all. Lena became pregnant. It was truly a miracle. So many years of nothing. And then, lo and behold, she had not registered for a long time and generally did not go to the gynecologist. Even though she knew it was irresponsible, it was just too painful, those old memories of a miscarriage and an unborn baby, and the woman was terrified of a repeat of the situation. Lyasha, on the contrary, shined like a polished samovar. He was just bursting with pride. He would soon become a father. Vitya, on the other hand, at first took the news of the new addition to the family with a fury. He was upset and shouted, "Well, of course, the baby will be born, and you all won't need me at once, will you? That's the way it's going to be. Why did you take me away if you could have your own?" And the boy ran away from home in anger. Lena didn't even have time to explain everything to him. Lena was crying and worried. It was evening outside, and Vitya still hadn't come back. Leshka had already knocked around all the yards and alleys. The boy was nowhere to be found. Then the young people rushed to Ivan Demidovich, hoping that maybe Vitya was there. The old man was surprised to see his daughter in tears on the doorstep. "What happened? Tell me, what happened?" The woman wailed and sobbed again. Lesha explained, "You see, Vidya ran away from home. I've searched all the yards. He's nowhere to be found. It's our own fault. Lena is pregnant, and we never told Vidya. We didn't prepare him, and he overheard by chance. So he got upset that no one needed him now, that no one would love him. We hoped that maybe you had him. And now I don't know what to do. Lena has already cried all her tears. How can we explain to him that we really love him as if he were our own, and that having a baby will not make things worse for him? Ivan Davidovich quickly threw on his jacket and hat, and waved his hand. Hey, young people, wait at home. I know where to find him. We have a secret place with him. Lena, stop crying. You absolutely mustn't. Vidya will be at your place in the morning, I promise. Come on, let's go home. Leshka obeyed, took Lena under his arm, and they went to the apartment. Even though they were both well aware that they would not be able to sleep tonight, Ivan Davidovich made it safely to the heating main, and shined his flashlight. Hey, Vitek, don't be stupid. Come out, kid. We're having a serious business talk. I know you're here, otherwise we'll disturb all the vagrants, and we'll get a slap in the neck. The boy climbed out from under the pile of cardboard and went disgruntledly to Ivan. He could not disobey him. He was the boy's unquestionable authority. Ivan silently took him by the hand and led him to his place. At home, he heated some tea and started a conversation. Listen, Vitya, you're wrong now. Yes, your mother is pregnant and soon you will have a little brother or sister. So what's wrong with that? You should be happy. I know my daughter. She won't betray or leave you in life, and she won't love you any less. You know how she cries for you. And Lyasha searched all the back alleys looking for you until dark. And my daughter, by the way, mustn't worry in her condition. Why are you doing this to them? Did they hurt you in any way? You better think that soon you'll be the main helper in the house. You'll take care of the little one, keep him safe. You'll help your mother. After all, you're a real man. Is it better for you here, with the bums on the heating mains? Vitya Gordon shook his head. I don't know what came over me, but I felt so hurt. And when I found myself on the street again, I was so scared. I don't want that kind of life anymore. I feel so good and calm at home with my mom and dad. Did my parents get hurt a lot? Would they scold you? Ivan laughed and rubbed his head. I told them I'd bring you back in the morning, but I know they won't sleep, so let's go home, little traveler, or your mother's going to have a nervous breakdown. They won't scold you, but promise me you won't pull any more stunts like that. You got it? The boy held out his hand. That's a deal. Let's go. Leshka and Lena couldn't find their bearings. The woman was pacing back and forth, and Leshka was frantically taping his fingers on the table. Time seemed to have stopped. Even always merry and restless, Zorak fell silent and lay sadly on the bed in the room, knowing that the owners were sad about something. Lena said, how empty and cold it immediately became in the apartment without Vitya. I look at the textbooks and the diary on the table, and I cry at once. What if something bad happened to him, and we're sitting here like idols, doing nothing, not saving him? Leshka answered quietly, you're right. At first I thought I'd go crazy for his orphanage tricks and antics and lingo, but now I realize there's no one closer to him. He was mine. That's all. I believe that Ivan Davidovich will find him. He knows him better than any of us. When the key turned and Vidya and Ivan Davidovich entered the apartment, Lena immediately rushed to hug and kiss the child, wailing, Vidusha, my son, he's back. Thank God. I've cried all my tears. We should have told you everything a long time ago. We should have had a heart-to-heart talk. You should not think bad. Your father and I love you very much and we will never leave you. Do you believe us? The boy couldn't stand it and cried, too. I will never run away again, honestly, and I will help you with the little one. Turns out it's so scary and bad out there alone now. You'll forgive me. Everyone cuddled together, and they made up. Only when Vitya fell asleep sweetly in his bed did Lena finally fall asleep, too, and she realized for herself that there are no other people's children. The main thing is to give your child all your tenderness and care, all the warmth of your heart, and it will surely melt even the most closed and fate-stricken heart. In due time Lena gave birth to a healthy, strong boy, named Vainika, after her grandfather. All her favorite men were waiting for her in the yard to discharge her. It was so touching. Lyasha proudly carried her son in her arms, and Lena held Vitya's hand in a huge beautiful bouquet of roses, a gift from her husband, Ivan Demidovich, and irrepressible Zorik, who also met the hostess from the maternity hospital, were walking nearby. Everyone was talking lively, joking, discussing who and what would walk with Zorik and Vanya Jr. And then a half-drunk man walked toward them, staggering from side to side. Lena could hardly recognize him as Sergei. My God, what had happened to him? Where was his wealth? How had he ever come to such a life? Looking at him, a wave of disgust and revulsion swept through her soul, and Lena willed herself to turn away, pretending not to recognize him. But Sergei recognized her at once, the same huge expressive eyes and a mop of hair gathered in a ponytail. In the years that they had not seen each other, the woman had grown incredibly beautiful, and looked just fine. Sergei felt a pang of jealousy. He felt bad that he had once pushed away and betrayed Lena himself. He would have lived now with such a beautiful girl, raised a child, and would not have known the misery. He could not stand it and called out to her, "Lenka, is that you? Don't you recognize me?" Lena replied sharply, "Man, you are mistaken," and walked away, holding her son closer to her. And she thought to herself, how good it was that Seryoza had left her, and Lesha had saved her. Not so much time has passed, and they already have such a big and friendly family, her husband, father, 2 sons and a dog, and most importantly, there is peace and harmony inside. Meanwhile, Leshka was talking. This is Isayev, a formerly famous businessman. The whole town knew him. A lot of people thought he was an intolerable character. He had a lot of hubris and arrogance. He considered the common workers to be cattle, and then his father married one of the bitches, and it turns out that his competitors sent her on purpose. That's how Isayev lost everything at once. Now he's downhill, drinking, not working anywhere, barely making ends meet. A friend at work told me about him. That's how it is. Ivan Demidovich sighed. Yeah, you can never escape from a fate. I know that for sure. And Lena added, everybody gets what they deserve. So, are we having a party or not? Leshenka, run down to the cake shop and get some cake. I don't think anyone will refuse. Vitya, do you still want something sweet? Do you want to go with Daddy? The boy ran to the store, and the happy grandfather took his long-awaited grandson in his arms. Ivan Demidovich almost cried as he watched his namesake smacking his lips and puffing out his cheeks in his sleep. An ocean of love for this little man poured out inside him. He told his daughter, Lenika, thank you, my dear, for the 100th time. You became my guardian angel, saved me from poverty, gave me a family, a grandson. I love you so much. You are the closest person on earth to me. Lena clung to her father. Daddy, me too. You know, that drunkard who came to meet us as a traitor for whom I suffered so much in my youth, and to be honest, I don't feel sorry for him at all. But after seeing him, I suddenly began to appreciate my Lesha even more. That's where the real man is. So native, reliable, calm. So now I'm also the happiest, so be it. At home they all had dinner together, then drank tea with sweets, and bathed the baby. And in the evening they began to think how to buy a bigger house. The family is not small anymore. And then Ivan Demidovich suggested, why don't we build the house ourselves? I've got a big plot, but a house with not much to go on. Slowly, and with love, let's build a house that everyone will love. What do you think? Everyone gladly supported the initiative, because the place is really good, and in the city, but in a residential area, not noisy, will be quiet for everyone. And so life went on as usual for the friendly Burkov family, where everyone was rooting for each other. Elena Polyakova, a general practitioner, was receiving patients. As usual, in her office, there was a lot of noise in the corridor. Crowds of people, mostly elderly. The woman's phone rang and she picked it up. Yes, honey, of course. Thank you for buying everything. I'll be late tonight. There's a lot of people at the reception. Can you make me some soup? Love you. Bye. Lena smiled and blissfully thought to herself, how lucky I am to have Lesha, a gold, not a husband. My life was finally getting better. I thought I had been haunted by some kind of evil fate since childhood, as it began in the village, and there was no end to the troubles. And how can you compare Leshu to his previous fiancé? Copyright, Sergei, a pompous turkey and a major, who loved only himself. Let Alexei is not rich, but how he loves her, cares, and her heart is easy and good with him. She was taken out of her thoughts by the shouting in the hallway. Some angry woman yelled, "Who let her bum in here? You can't be around here. You won't get cured here, and you'll catch more disease. Get him out of here." The doctor couldn't stand it and went out into the corridor to see what was going on. An elderly man was standing modestly at the door. He was dressed in some rags, with a huge, lopsided beard, and was rubbing his outpatient card in his hands. The old man looked very sick, coughing heavily, and his eyes were watery. Lena saw something remotely familiar in them. She felt unbearably sorry for the tramp, and she said sternly, "Citizens, stop the scandal. I'll take everyone. Don't worry, man. Go ahead without waiting in line. I'll take a look at you. I see you have a high fever." Everyone murmured unhappily, and the old man, dumbfounded by such attention, shyly shuffled into the office. The doctor picked up the chart. Subscribe to DeepL Pro to edit this document. Visit www.deepl.com/pro for more information. Let's see what you have here. Prokofiev Ivan Damidovich, born in 50. What? Prokofiev Ivan Damidovich? The woman stared at the older man and almost fainted. Her head was all mixed up. Is it really him? Could it be? But how is that possible? How can I ask him? Elena began to scroll through her life frame by frame, as if in a movie. Lena's childhood was hardly a happy one. Their family lived in a tiny village in a barracks apartment building. Her mother worked in a store. Her father was a railroad worker. They lived poorly, at a stretch. The usual food was soup and pasta, and Lena saw candy and sweets only on major holidays. The reason was banal. Her father was a heavy drinker. There was such a category of men, the silent alcoholic. He never raised his hand or made a fuss, but he drank every single day, and on weekends he was drunk out of his mind. His mother yelled and scolded him. Scandals were a constant occurrence, but it did not change anything. The next day everything repeated itself. Lena suffered a lot, cried and begged her father not to drink. He swore that was it. Not a drop from today. But Vladimir was a soft-hearted, gutless man, and his friends who were inviting me to drink were always hanging around their apartment. Veronica, Lena's mother, completely exhausted by her husband's antics, woke up the 8-year-old early one morning and whispered, "Daughter, hurry up and get dressed. We have to go. There's no time. As long as this fool of the King of Heaven sleeps upside down, otherwise he'll wake up and start begging again that it's the last time and he won't drink anymore. You've ruined my whole life, you bastard." What were my eyes looking at? A sleepy Lenica whimpered and rubbed her eyes. "And, Dad, is he coming with us? Where are we going? Can we go without him?" The mother suddenly shouted sharply and angrily, "He's not your daddy, all right? You'll understand when you grow up. Hurry up, or we'll miss the train." That day she and her mother ran away from her father to the capital. They left him no word as to where they were going, and no chance of finding them. It took a long time for their lives to settle down. For months Veronica searched for work, but could not find anything decent for decent money. She and her daughter were already eating up the last crumbs of money they had brought from home, and the woman began to panic. Finally, luck smiled on her. She managed to get a job as a waitress in a cafe. Everything more or less settled down. Lena also had a hard time at her new school. Cool metropolitan classmates mocked the poor simpleton from the village. The girl often cried, was offended. Few people made friends with her. She desperately missed for a long time her father and her village, where everyone knows each other. Everything is simple and understandable. But, despite the difficulties, Lena studied very well. She raved about medicine, and dreamed of going to university. But since there were no chances to go to the paid department, a gold medal was the only hope. So 5 years went by. One day my mother brought home a man and simply, as it were, said, "Lenica, meet Prokofiev Ivan Damidovich, a very good man. We love each other, and he will live with us. You can call him Uncle Vanya." At first, the teenage girl had a hostile reaction to her stepfather. She was somehow offended that this stranger, not her father, was with them. He would still be bossing her around, teaching her life. She looked at him unkindly, tried to ignore him. Ivan, on the contrary, as if he did not notice the hostile mood of the child, and tried his best to smooth over the sharp edges. Every day he brought her a little present from work, from the bunny. But as time went by, it turned out that the stepfather was really a great man. He started calling Lena his daughter almost from day one, without demanding the same from her. He loved Veronica very much. It was obvious. Vanya looked at her so much. He never hurt Lena either. Spoiled her with toys and gifts. Bought her a new phone. Gradually, my stepfather and stepdaughter became close, and they became best friends. Ivan worked as a manager in the purchasing department of a private firm. He was not a rich man, but he earned a very decent living. He had one cherished dream: to open his own business, a small cafe told the copyright, and the man meticulously put aside money for it. But Veronica was infuriated. She did not believe in the success of this venture, and often reprimanded her roommate. "You'd better give it up. You keep putting money in your pile like a mole. You should have bought me a fur coat or taken me to a resort. It's my bad luck." The first one turned out to be a drunkard, the second a cheapskate. Vanya was not the least bit offended, hugging his racket tightly and whispering to her, "Don't swear. Lenica hears everything. I have already calculated everything. Soon I will open my own business. There will be a profit, and we will all go to the sea. Do I mind? How much harder can you work for someone else? I'm not thinking of myself. I'm thinking of you. I alone and the salary was enough, and I want more for my beloved girls. And you'll also be good. The profit from serving customers in our cafe is all in the house, in the family." What's wrong with that? Uncle Vanya was divorced, lived alone for a long time in a rented apartment with a cat, and was so tired of being alone that he would put up with anything, just to have a real family. The man took great pleasure in doing lessons with Lena, helped with math and English. They talked a lot. The little girl also fell in love with him with her childlike heart absolutely sincerely, and reached out to him like a stalk to the sun. Her mother was always a practical and pragmatic woman. She did not like to make love to her daughter, and she did not show any tenderness to her daughter. She was more of a boss and a teacher. One day Ivan went on a very ordinary business trip for a few days, and he disappeared for good. Lena cried for him, worried, asked her mother, "Let's go to the police. We'll tell them everything. Maybe they'll find him. What if Daddy's in trouble and he needs help? Don't you feel sorry for him?" "I feel very bad without him. He's a good man, the best." But Vera sharply put her down. "Don't be ridiculous. We're not going anywhere. What's there to tell them? I bet Ivan just ditched us and ran away. What else can you expect from these men? He'll get enough. He'll come back on his own." Lena protested vigorously. "Why do you say that? He's not like that. He loves me. I know he does, and you too. Besides, he left all the money he was saving for his business. If he wanted to leave us, he probably would have taken it." Veronica snapped back. "Oh, look at her. She knows. She's too young to reason. I've fallen in love, but I've fallen out of love. It's all so easy and simple with men. Your father drank with us and without us, until he died drunkenly, like a dog in a ditch. He didn't look for us very much. And this one too, he must have found a younger woman." Lena did not calm down. "But Ivan doesn't drink. He's done so much for us. You can't do that, Mama." The woman just waved her hand and ran off to work. A month passed. The stepfather never showed up, as if he vanished into thin air. Vera was an enterprising woman. She was not wanted. Moreover, she had a profitable job at the other end of town as a grocery clerk, and she decided to move. Lena was against it categorically. She had barely got used to the school, and here again she had to adapt to her classmates, and she believed that Ivan could not leave them like that, and leave them all the money. Lena cried and asked her mother not to move out, but the woman was adamant. Many years had passed since then. The money of the stepfather was slowly spent. Lena, after graduation from high school, safely entered the medical university herself, without any graft, and finished it with flying colors. But Ivan never showed up. The mystery of his disappearance kept Lena up all her life. The girl was studying to be a therapist and was already doing her residency, when suddenly, out of the blue, love struck. It was just like in the movies. Lena ran into a cafe for a bite to eat, and at the entrance she ran into a respectable, very expensive dressed young man. They both apologized, then laughed. and then got to know each other word for word. The guy's name was Sergei. He was the son of a very well-known restaurateur and businessman in the capital, Fedorizaev. Lena was a very beautiful girl. Huge green eyes, regular features, sensual lips, and a thin, literally bespoke waist. Sergei began to compliment her, and immediately asked her out. The girl blushed like a boiled cancer, because no one had ever called her a goddess, and did not show such signs of attention. Student guys did not count. She ignored them, and focused on her studies, and so spun a stormy and passionate romance. It was the girl's first strong love. She literally lost her mind from a handsome suitor. After all, he opened a new world for her. He took her to expensive restaurants and glamorous parties, literally showered her with flowers and gifts. But Sergei had one unpleasant and even slightly frightening trait. His mood could change in an instant, like a storm at sea. Here he was just laughing and rejoicing, but because of some little things could break out and yell. There was such a case once. Young people were driving at midnight along the highway. Sergei drove at high speed, overtaking everyone in a row. Lena panicked. She got scared, and at first just asked him to be more careful, but the guy did not respond. He just laughed and pushed the gas pedal even harder. Then the girl shouted, "What's wrong with you, Sergei? You're out of your mind. Stop the car immediately. I'm getting out. You're crazy. We're going to crash." Suddenly the guy braked sharply, so that Lena almost hit her forehead on the windshield, opened the door and literally threw her out of the car, shouting after him, "No one raises their voice at me, okay? You want to walk? Go ahead. Good riddance." He closed the door in front of a dazed Lena and drove away. He decided to teach her a lesson. The girl was crying. She was so hurt. She had to stampede for 2 kilometers along the side of the road until another driver took pity on the poor woman. The couple fell apart. The very next day, Sergei apologized, pounded doorbells and said it would never happen again. He said he would never do it again, and Lena forgave, because she still loved her boyfriend, no matter what. Their nights were the same, unrestrained and passionate. Sergei was a sophisticated and tireless lover, and the fairy tale prude forgot all the prohibitions, gave herself to the whirlpool of passion, and not surprisingly, she soon started throwing up and vomiting in the morning with terrible force. Only then did she come to her senses and realize that she was pregnant. Lena was very happy. Her age was good. The child was wanted. It was from the man she loved. She had to have the baby. That same evening, she told Sergei on a date that she was pregnant, happily showing him the positive test. "Congratulations, honey. You're going to be a daddy. I wonder what we'll have. A boy or girl? If it's a boy, he'll look like you. And if it's a girl, he'll look like me. Right?" Lena chirped, and Sergei was silent and gloomy as a cloud. Then abruptly interrupted her and answered coldly, "What boy? What girl? I don't want kids yet. And anyway, I thought you were a doctor and have a head on your shoulders, and you didn't even have the brains to protect yourself. That's all right. I think you can get an abortion at your hospital. I'll give you the money and forget about it." Lena was shocked and could not believe what she heard. "You bastard. I didn't expect that. I thought we were going to get married soon. So why wait to have kids? I'm 25. It's time to have a baby." "No way. I'm not having an abortion. I'll raise it myself. If you don't want kids, me and the baby will live without such a father." She slapped Sergei across the face and ran home in tears. She had never felt so bad in her life. The only thing that saved her was her work, which made her forget for a while that the bastard fiancé tilde copyright had left her and that she was now a single mother. Toxicosis was getting worse. Her lower abdomen was tugging. A month passed, and Sergei showed up in her life again. He told her that he had come to his senses, that he had reconsidered everything, and that he was not against the baby. He suggested that she go to the countryside, to a picnic, to rest, and to make up at the same time. Lena felt in her heart that something was wrong. Her intuition was screaming, "Don't believe him, don't agree." But her heart, sick with love, wouldn't listen to anyone. She wanted so desperately to believe in good things, just like in the movies, and she agreed, happy that now for sure they would marry and the baby will have a father and a mother. She herself had not grown up in an ideal family, and she wanted her child to see none of this. On the appointed day, Lena dressed for the day. It was April. Everything was blooming, but still the breeze was blowing cold. Sergei took her far out of town, chattering away the whole way, telling her how bad he felt, how much he missed her. They settled on a hill, on the rocks. The view from this place was amazing: powerful pine trees, green grass, and a leisurely flowing river. And how intoxicating the air was. Sergei spread a blanket, took out all sorts of delicacies, and a bottle of Italian wine. Lena was taken aback. "Why wine? You're driving, aren't you?" "And I can't either. I'm pregnant." "You shouldn't even open it." But the groom began to persuade her. "Yes, we are literally a little bit to reconciliation. There won't even be a smell left." They sat, hugging, eating, and Sergei was tasting wine for the third time. Then suddenly he said, "Let me take your picture. The nature here is amazing. Let's go for a walk." Lena was glad. "Really? Why sit? It's not every day you get to go out in nature." And they went up the path. When they climbed to a decent height, Sergei suddenly, as if by chance, pushed her down with force. The girl screamed and tumbled over the bumps, hitting her stomach hard and feeling a sharp pain. Something sticky and hot ran down her legs. She was horrified to realize it was blood. The girl cried out in tears and crouched in pain. "Hey, Mums, what have you done? I'm sick. Take me to the hospital. Take me to the hospital right now." Sergei pretended to be sympathetic, but in the meantime he was in no hurry. He slowly gathered all the groceries, folded the blanket, and only then helped Lena finally get into the car. All the way he was silent, and she sobbed. Lena realized that it was all on purpose, and the reconciliation, and the picnic, to kill their baby. And so it happened. Doctors fought for Lena and the baby's life for a long time, but, unfortunately, the pregnancy could not be saved. Not only that, after the trauma and the hard blow, the doctors warned her that she would most likely never have children again. Lena was sobbing, biting her fists, and hating that bastard who had treated her so cynically and cruelly. And most importantly, there was nothing to show the scoundrel. He had nothing to do with it. It was just an accident, and Sergei did not try to justify himself. After doing his black work, he simply disappeared from the horizon again, but now forever. Lena had no sooner recovered from this tragedy and discharged from the hospital than her mother died. This was to be expected, because 2 years ago Vera was diagnosed with a serious illness in its advanced stages, but still Lena wanted to believe that her mother would live longer. On her deathbed, the woman did not say a word about where Ivan had disappeared to, even though Lena asked her about it. It was a secret that mother took to her grave. Even though Lena always felt that she knew what was hidden from everyone, it seemed that all the troubles came at once. Lena was like a robot. Inside her was a crater, a ruin, a conflagration. So she was taking patients until late, writing appointments to come to the empty apartment as late as possible. The worst part was, Lena almost stopped sleeping. As soon as she closed her eyes, she remembered those terrible events. Sergei pushing her and her flying down, and then the operating room, the whispers of doctors, the sighs of nurses, and those sympathetic glances that were like, "What bad luck. So young, and she lost a child, and she's childless." Then, as in a kaleidoscope, the funeral of the mother, the handfuls of earth on the coffin lid, and again the same sympathetic glances that literally turned the already sorrowful soul inside out. And so in a circle until morning. Lena drank packs of sedatives and antidepressants, but nothing helped. She was already literally like a zombie, under the eyes black circles, lost weight and emaciated. To live, sleep, get up, he did not want to. She, as a physician, understood perfectly well that her affairs were bad, and she had already begun to have bad thoughts. The woman went to psychotherapists, but they were powerless to help her grief-stricken colleague. There was no telling how it would have ended, and her neighbor, Leshaw, saved her. This long-eyed bespectacled man, so similar to the well-known shirk, had long been hopelessly and secretly in love with Lenica. But that's come up and just say it, probably never would have dared. It seemed to him that such a smarter and beautiful will certainly give a turn away an ordinary plumber. He had heard of the troubles that had befallen her poor head, and of her mother's death. He actively helped her with the funeral in a neighborly way. The man felt madly sorry for Lenica. She had such sad, downright sick eyes, In them stood such sadness and hopelessness. One day it was a dreary, cold autumn weather. Lena walked home late in the evening, not noticing either the piercing wind or the drizzling rain. She didn't even skirt the puddles, and her feet were long wet in their skinny little boots. The woman was searching in the pockets of her soaked coat for a long time, and had already begun to turn the key in the lock, when the bespectacled man, Leshaw, came out of the apartment across the street. He said hello and said, "Lenka, come see me. At least for half an hour. It's my birthday and I don't even have anyone to drink with. Can you imagine? And I'll cure you of depression in one session. Do you want?" There's an old tried and true way. It's a secret my grandmother passed down to me. The woman wanted to say no to the annoying neighbor, but then thought, what am I going to do at home now? What am I going to do at home now? I'll go. I have nothing to lose, especially since I've known Leshaw for ages. He won't hurt me. She went into his kitchen. The man immediately gave her dry sacks and warm room slippers and said businesslike, "Dress. Your feet are wet. You'll catch cold and get sick in a jiffy." Lena was touched by this concern, and even smiled haggardly. Leshka took juice and a foggy bottle of vodka out of the fridge, cut up sandwiches and vegetables, and said solemnly, "Well, come on. First to my health 3 times, and then we'll start treating your depression." "You would?" Lena looked at how much he had poured and was indignant. "Leshaw, are you crazy? I've never drunk vodka in my life, and in such quantities. Couldn't you drink less?" The man shook his head negatively. "I don't drink much either, but it's my birthday, and if you drink a little bit, you won't get a therapeutic effect for a year. So come on, bottoms up. Don't hurt the birthday boy." And they drank it 3 times. The strong, scalding and bitter drink literally made it hard to breathe, and Lena, goggling her eyes, took a quick and funny snack with the crispy pickle. At first, the alcohol did not take her at all. Not at all, but gradually it became so nice and warm. Her body relaxed. With each drink she wanted to roar more and more, but it was uncomfortable. After all, it was her neighbor's party. And then Leshka said with a slurred tongue, "That's it. It's time to start the session, or we'll both be under the table soon." And he rummaged in the closet and pulled out a mountain of old, ridiculous polka dots. "I hate this service. I got it from my dead grandmother, who was mean to me. You remember her? Well, she used to shake on it so much that she would never let my brother and I eat out of those plates, and we wanted to smash them to spite her. Well, that's what we're going to do now." Dina didn't get it. What to do? "Leska, you've got me completely confused." The man gave her one. "See the person you hate, the person who hurt you, and hit the plate with force as if it were him. One for you, one for me. Well, you first. Let's go." Lena looked at her neighbor incredulously, and thought to herself, is he crazy? And if she had been sober, she probably would have twisted her temple and given up on this madness. But almost 2/3 of a bottle of vodka had done the trick, and the half-drunk Lena decided, and why not? At least this way I'll get revenge on the scoundrel Sergei. And with force she smashed the first plate on the floor. Then Leshka followed. Then Lena again. And they got so carried away that in a couple of minutes they smashed her grandmother's entire set. And then Lena drank more, looked at the shards, and cried out loud and uncontrollably. With each tear she felt lighter and lighter, as if the pain inside her was dulling. And then Lena remembered nothing else. The light went out. Our heroine could not move her head. It was as if it were cast iron. Her tongue seemed to be swollen and stuck to the palate. The woman could not figure out where she was. The environment was obviously unfamiliar, and most importantly, what happened and how she got here. She was covered up to her neck with plaid. Her feet were burning in warm woolen men's socks. Leska, hearing that her neighbor woke up, timidly entered the bedroom, carrying in his hands a glass of mineral water and a pill of effervescent aspirin. He handed her the medicine. "Good evening, Lena. I thought you'd never wake up. You've been asleep for 24 hours. How are you? Feeling a little better? Have a drink. Your head will go faster. Go take a shower. Here's a clean bathrobe, and I'll wait for you in the kitchen for dinner. I made some chicken soup. It's perfect for you now." A stunned Lena stammered, "No, Lesha, it's uncomfortable. I should probably go home. I'm sorry I got so drunk yesterday. It's never happened before that I skipped work because I was drunk. It's embarrassing. And they both laughed and began to remember how they were pounding the set, and then chanting songs and sobbing. Lena caught herself thinking that she felt so good and relaxed at Lesha's house, she really didn't want to leave. She rinsed in the shower. Then they ate a very tasty soup, and talked about everything in the world. After all, Lesha was his own man. He would understand. With him there was no need for any rules and decorum. You could be funny or ridiculous, just yourself. And then the man quietly and timidly took her hand and said, "Do you know, Lena, that I have long been hopelessly in love with you like a fool. And all these years I was afraid to even hint to you about it. And now I've made up my mind. Marry me. I know you don't love me at all, but I'll be happy just to have you by my side. I promise we won't drink anymore. I almost died from the habit." And Lena, unexpectedly for herself, suddenly answered, "And I agree. I can't be alone anymore. And I feel good and calm with you." And she didn't leave Leshka's apartment anymore. She just systematically moved all her things there. The couple quietly and modestly got married, and celebrated at home, in the kitchen, with their best longtime friends. Lena never once regretted marrying her favorite bespectacled man. It was hard to find a more loving and reverent husband. Yes, he was not a banker or a businessman, but the simple mechanic in a factory. But, as it turned out, money was not the happiness. Every morning when she woke up, Lena knew that a cup of aromatic coffee was waiting for her in the kitchen and a relaxing massage in the evening. They loved to watch their favorite TV series, wrapped in plaid and snuggled up to each other. Lesha stroked her hair and whispered, "My joy." He surrounded his wife with such care and attention, like a cocoon, and the wounds of the soul began to heal little by little. Lena now slept normally and soundly, hugging her husband and feeling his warmth. So many times she caught herself thinking that they had lived side by side for so many years, and she did not realize that they were the perfect couple. Leshka also could not rejoice that his most cherished dream had come true, and he and Lenika were together. The boy was very modest by nature. He and his brother were brought up by his grandmother, and when she died, he was left all alone in an empty apartment. There were, of course, several attempts at relationships with women in his life, but it just wasn't the same. So both got what they wanted, got rid of the creepy and frightening loneliness, and fell genuinely in love. And soon her husband brought home another member of the family from the garbage dump, a puppy named Zorik, a ridiculous, skinny, with a bushy tail. Lena was thrilled. She had wanted a dog since she was a little girl, but her mother was always strongly against it. And over time the girl put up with it, and decided that it was not destined to come true. And then the problems arose. Her work, and she had no time for a dog. With the advent of Zorik, their family became even friendlier and stronger. Wanted or not, but with him it is necessary to walk every day. Lena honestly told Lesha that she probably could not become a mother. He listened and answered quietly, "None of this matters to me. If you had 3 children or no children, I would still love you and never leave you. I live for you. How can you not understand that? You are my child. I get a kick out of taking care of you. You know, after all, we have Zorik. Isn't that a baby?" And he petted the dog behind the ear. He wagged his tail happily and licked his master's hand. They never brought it up in this family again, although, of course, Lena still felt out of place when they went to visit married couples with children. A sense of inferiority did not leave her. She even considered taking the baby from the orphanage, but she did not dare to suggest it to Lesha. And now, her stepfather, Ivan Prokhorov, who mysteriously disappeared without a trace many years ago, came to see her. Lena's eyes welled up with tears. She threw her arms around him and wept. "Uncle Vanya, Dad, is that you? Oh, my God, I'm Lena. Remember me, your stepdaughter. We lived in the same family many years ago." The dumbfounded man also cried, so bitterly. "Lena, my girl, how beautiful you've become. You've learned to be a doctor. Clever girl. After all, I did not think that at the doctor's office I would meet you." The woman wept. wiping away her tears. Uncle Vanya, what happened to you? Why did you leave us and disappear? Mother said that you were tired of the responsibility, or that you had another woman. But I didn't believe her, and for many years I waited, and secretly hoped that you would come back. And what happened to you? You look so. The man just waved his hand and answered quietly, "Oh, Lenica, you don't know anything.